This is the first in a series of short videos comparing the subject of loss management versus traditional safety. Simply put, it promotes the management systems approach versus the ineffective remedial approach, which is prevalent in so many organizations of our economy. Traditional safety deals with injuries and occupational illnesses, but loss management is a method of total resource conservation, as well as addressing incidents affecting people, equipment, materials, and the environment. This presentation will clearly show in which direction future safety professionals should look to improve their organization. We will look at the end result, which is proper operation and not safe operation. We must address the risks before they result in an accident or an incident, and not afterwards. And how do we do that? Well, the potential for loss is governed by these administrative systems, and it needs to be addressed before it has a chance to go through the domino sequence of events resulting in an actual loss. And then we systematically determine the loss probability in every task, in every operation, in every department, and we set operating standards to control that loss potential and continually monitor their effectiveness. This is equally important in established operations as well as in new ones and in the introduction of new products or operating systems. The concept came about in 1969 when Frank Bird was the Director of Engineering Services at a very large insurance company. And he looked at a huge body of data, and the results were the Bird accident ratio. This is a very popular diagram. We've seen it many times before in the safety business. It's an accident ratio study. For every one serious or disabling injury, there are 10 minor injuries, 30 property damage, and 600 incidents with no visible injury or damage. I think we call them near misses. Now, from his study, he believed that correcting the errant management system will eliminate a whole series of incidents, and he's right. If we address the system, then all loss-producing incidents can be virtually eliminated by analyzing the potential for their occurrence. This is not only proactive, but it is essential to business survival. Safety has a very narrow scope, occupational illness and injuries, but loss management has a broad scope. Total resource conservation. In loss management, we look at all of these things, including occupational illness and injuries. From the Bird accident ratio, on the left-hand side we can see that safety, traditional safety, just looks at the insured costs and injuries, and it doesn't really give us a big picture because we need to make money to stay in business. Loss management looks at the uninsured costs and the potential for uninsured costs. Loss management is concerned with incidents, not accidents. Any incident which involves personal injury or loss, any incident which requires repair or replacement of damaged equipment or material or environmental loss. All situations which result in unnecessary extra cost to the operation. We're looking at proper operation here, not just safe operation. And what Bird found was that the underlying causes of personal injuries were exactly the same as those related to the damage and loss of property, equipment, material stock, and environmental impacts, and that the underlying cause in all cases was found to be due to failures in the management system. Underlying causes, all incidents to people, equipment, materials, and the environment had similar causes and were found to be as a result of failures to the management system. That cannot be emphasized strongly enough. What is the management system? Well, it consists of about 20 or more elements: leadership, administration, management, training, plan, inspections, job task analysis, etc., etc., and goes all the way through. And we have to manage each one of those effectively in order to control the potential for loss and avoid the domino sequence. One of the methods of control is the ISMEC principle. ISMEC. It stands for Identify the Work to be Done, Then we set the standards of performance in each activity. Then we measure the compliance to see that people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. We evaluate what needs to be done if they're not, or if the system is not working, and then we put in corrective measures to do that. And then we go back to square one and identify the work again. It's a constant process. The P.E.M.E principle is an acronym for people, equipment, materials, and the environment. And remember, in order to be effective as a safety professional, you have to be prepared to address the potential for loss in all four areas, not just safety with people. The iceberg model is another common safety diagram, and we really need to understand it a bit better. For every dollar spent in compensation costs, and they're the only ones that we can actually have a hand on, what we find is that for every dollar, we spend $5 to $50 in uninsured costs, and an additional $1 to $3 in uninsured miscellaneous costs. Traditional safety thinking focuses on unsafe acts and unsafe conditions. Let's fix that stuff and we'll be okay. It's all after the fact. Generally, compensation legislation has no mandate for looking at proper operations. They want you to do it safely, but they don't care if you do it any other way. How effective is safety thinking in BC industry? Not very. Between the years of 2000 and 2009, the average claims cost paid by the WCB per year was $900 million. Now that's got to come from somewhere. So there's our little diagram there that shows that the costs are compensated, and that's why our WCB premiums and assessment rates are so very high. The iceberg model, then we can calculate what the other costs are that are costing our industry, and we end up with a diagram that looks like this. $895 million for compensation, then we get $400 to $400 billion worth in uninsured costs, miscellaneous uninsured costs. So the total cost to BC industry could be between $5 and $47 billion because we are not looking after things properly. We're not dealing with loss management, we're simply looking at safety. And we need to stay in business. Peter Drucker says that the first duty of business is to survive, and the guiding principle of business economics is not the maximization of profit, it's the avoidance of loss. We must employ loss management principles and get rid of the old safety thinking. I'll talk to you again.